Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to United vs. Everybody. I am your host, Sean. Sorry for the confusion there. YouTube has this weird thing when you click go live. It like waits a couple seconds. It's like it's loading and then it tells you you're live, but you already been live for a few seconds. So I just sit here looking like an idiot for a second. But in any case, we are back. Welcome back to the channel. This is, of course, the Man United fan channel, built on fan opinion, powered by fan opinion, and just grown by fan opinion, by you guys getting involved in the chats, getting involved in the comments, getting involved in subscribing. So you guys make this channel what it is. You always have, and in my opinion, you always will. That's why I'm here. So I will do my best to just make sure that it's fan opinion first, always, just as the banner on the channel implies. So we're going to get stuck in today with this morning's Man United news roundup. Got a little bit of Jadon Sancho news to talk about, potentially some Ugarte updates, and potentially some outgoings as well. So before we do get stuck in on all of that, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's see what we've got coming up today. Danny, good morning, my friend. Danny, always faithful, always here, man, holding down the fort. I love it. Appreciate all the love, my guy. How are things over there in New England? So on McTominay, so yesterday we've got the news, the big here we go. We did the big video yesterday. Remember, it happened because as soon as I ended my live stream on my 3 thoughts, we got this news from David Ornstein that McTominay was a here we go to Napoli. So I had to come back on and do that show for you because I love you guys so much. So we got the news that Scott McTominay is set to leave United to join Napoli, to join Antonio Conte in a $30 million deal with a sell-on clause. Fabrizio Romano added that details still need to be discussed in terms of McTominay's payoff from United. So remember, Aaron Wan-Bissaka had that payoff because our previous regime, so Murtaugh, Richard Arnold, Ed Woodward, the Glazers, all those guys, in their infinite wisdom, because they're such good businessmen, right? And they can do things in the window that no other club can. They decided it would be a good idea to not only put in, that activate an extra year option on these contracts, but in some cases, these players have negotiated in that extra year clause that they get a payoff, basically, if we activate that, because that's apparently smart to do. Justin, good morning, my guy. How's the dog doing, bud? Hope she's okay. And so, similar to Aaron Wan-Bissaka's deal, Scott McTominay has to discuss basically this payoff terms and what's that going to be. So this is, according to Romano, this is the main part to fix, the personal terms involved. So again, that freaking BS payoff thing. Danny B says, what a scumbag to bite off the hand that fed you and made you who you are today. McTominay shite someone's true colors. Danny, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I'm going to guess you're not a McTominay fan. And again, it's hard to hate on the players too much because it's kind of like, I don't know, the previous regime is the one who decided to agree to this. I'm not going to hold the players responsible too much for, adhering to the contract, because we would do the same if it was the other way around, right? We demand that players play based on how much we pay them, but then at the same time, the other side of that coin is she's just, the players, we have this our end on the contract to hold up as well. So it is what it is. But I hear your frustration. I think a lot of fans are echoing the frustration. Nick, big up, man. Good morning. Welcome to the channel. Justin, she's okay, not great. Still might fly. Well, hopefully you don't have to go to the vet today, bud. Hopefully, just as long as everything's coming out one end and not coming out the other, I think you'll be all right for a little while. Just make sure she's eating and drinking. And so according to Romano, this now means the McTominay move, once that's all wrapped up, this now means Ugarte's move to United is likely to actually be a permanent move and not just a loan with an obligation, because when we get some money from McTominay, obviously, yeah, McTominay represents nothing but profit. He's an academy player, he's been here for 20 years. And so I think that, we've been waiting on that. And I don't think, again, like I said in that video, I don't think McTominay, if all things were equal, I don't think McTominay would be a player that Ten Hag wanted to sell. I think he likes McTominay. I think he likes what he brings to this team. And he's going to, it's going to be hard to replicate that. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that it's 100% just a given that only players who come through the academy give their all. I'm not saying that, all players that come through the academy give their all. We see many players come through the academy just not put up as much of a fight, but it also means you can't also buy players who are willing to put in that fight and give that effort for the badge as well. Like, I think of guys like Ander Herrera, Nemanja Vidic, Rio Ferdinand. These guys didn't come through the academy. We signed them, and they gave 100% time and time again. So it's not impossible. So it could be a permanent transfer because of that profit. Romano also, he did tweet. Remember, he tweeted that red circle with the hourglass and the Uruguayan flag. And so I think according to social media laws, that must mean it's official at some point. So according to Spanish outlet El País, there is a report too that PSG have lowered their asking price for Ugarte from the 60 million that they were demanding down to around 50 million. So good negotiating on our part. We know we didn't want to pay that 60 million. We know he wasn't technically worth that 60 million. PSG were trying to almost make money, or at least make their money back, which is just not going to happen when it's a player you don't want. So sounds like a good deal all around. I'm still bummed that we just left it very, very late in the transfer window. I think Ugarte could have meant the difference in maybe on Saturday's results. I think that maybe just his willingness, his kind of aggression and initiative to come out and handle things and not just wait around, kind of like Licha. I think that maybe knows who could have been. We can split hairs about that and play the what if game over and over again, but we'll never know. But it was my complaint when we took too long to sign Casemiro as well. Like we struggled those first two matches that season. Then we brought him in, and then he didn't play because another complaint was Tenhag tends to wait a little bit to let these new signings kind of bed in and get used to things, which I think I can get the mindset behind that. I just don't think you need to be as like timid and legalistic about it, because now we're seeing it with Xerxes as well and De Ligt. And I think that it could cost him. Like, I think that Tenhag really needs to play his best starting 11 and then see what that looks like, because it's going to cost us points. Just like waiting too long to sign Ugarte is going to cost us points. So Danby says Erik ten Hag probably wouldn't have played him anyway if he was here. I mean, you're talking about Ugarte? Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I can say like, oh, he could have made a difference, but at the same time, like you're saying, like I just said, like he might not have even played because Ten Hag is just reluctant to just play players right away. He's not the only manager that does this. Jose did the same thing with Fred. He did the same thing with Mkhitaryan. Like, I get the mindset, but I don't feel like it's 100% necessary anymore. And I'm not sure how much of that is managers being timid or managers trying to just be stubborn with, like, they think that they know best. And I don't know. Maybe it's just different for each manager, but it's frustrating as a fan when we get these players and it's clearly they meet a need that on the pitch and we're not playing them. Like Xerxes, like De Ligt. I mean, we can all sit here and speculate whether or not De Ligt would have let that ball from João Pedro flash all the way across the goal to Mitoma. We don't know, but we'd like to think maybe not. Nick says, now we have Ten Hag, need more hugs to win. The puns on Ten Hag's name since he's arrived, I mean, they almost write themselves at some point. So probably one of the worst things that's happened to him is that photo that was taken, what was that, 2 years ago, whatever, with that bubble that was on his head. I think that was against West Ham, right? Yeah, that was that bubble that had just landed on his head. Big up to the photographer who managed to grab that, because those kind of photos are not easy. I used to be a photographer. I was a photographer for my yearbook, photographing sports. I was a photographer for a while professionally as well. It's the photos like that, you have to always be ready when you've got your camera. So we'll big up the photographer. Maybe it was Odegaard who took that photo. We know Odegaard likes to take photos. Not going to be taking photos of trophies anytime soon, are you, though, Martin? So in any case, we will see what happens. Moving on from midfield, let's talk a little bit about Jadon Sancho. So according to Gianluca Di Marzio and Get Italian Football News, Juventus want Jadon Sancho on an initial loan deal to make sure they can find a way around the high salary to sign him, because Sancho's on a lot of money. Again, that's why we have a problem selling players. We pay them way, way, way too much, and we're stuck with them basically till they run out their contracts for free or we take a loss, because it's not very often that players take a pay cut. It doesn't happen very frequently. Juventus are considering various ways to solve the problem, but they need to move quickly because apparently Chelsea are interested in Jadon Sancho as well, because Chelsea need more players. Apparently they don't have enough. It's not like they've got wingers who are scoring hat tricks and providing for assists and stuff, or wingers who cost a lot of money from Ukrainian league. We'll talk a little bit about Modric later, but apparently Chelsea need more players. Chelsea and Juventus are exploring a deal for Man United's Jadon Sancho. So Juventus prefers a loan. Chelsea might offer a player swap. We want a permanent deal, but we haven't ruled out that loan with an obligation to buy. So that's coming from Dharmesh Sheth with Sky Sports. DiMarzio adds that Chelsea are ready to make an attempt to sign Jadon Sancho and could look to include either Raheem Sterling or Ben Chilwell in their proposal. And that's obviously from the thumbnail. Talk a little bit. Give me your thoughts on Raheem Sterling. Give me your thoughts on Ben Chilwell. We've already spoken a little bit about Ben Chilwell. I told you when Luke Shaw was announced that he picked up an injury preseason that we were going to get Ben Chilwell links. And lo and behold, the Ben Chilwell links popped back up. And now Chelsea want to offload Ben Chilwell. Danny says it's a joke. The proof they are offering, they think we're clowns. Yeah. Chelsea look frightening against Wolves. I mean, Chelsea, it's easy to look frightening against Wolves right now. I'm not trying to disparage Wolves, but you took one of their better players in Pedro Neto, and like you're gonna, when you spend over $2 billion on players, by sheer just numbers game, you're gonna have some good ones in the squad. Because I can sit here and bash some of their players for not being good, but you spent $2 billion, like you're gonna, and plus, we have to remember too that Chelsea are probably going to get this new manager bounce. I'm starting to feel like over the last decade, Chelsea have just ridden new manager bounce after new manager bounce in an effort to kind of just win stuff, because you've seen how many managers have only been there for a couple of years, if that. Danny B says, "Don't insult us. At least offer Shalaba or Chukwumama. What is that? Chukwumama? Yeah, I can't remember how to pronounce that game. I would have taken Shalaba had we not gotten Euro and De Ligt, but." They can throw in Romeo Lavia if they want, but we'll see what happens there. Chelsea are aware of the situation with Jadon Sancho, according to Fabrizio Romano, but Juventus are the team currently in negotiations. Again, what do you think? You guys have already said not feeling it. I don't want Chilwell. I don't want Sterling. It doesn't, like I've said the other day, it makes zero sense to replace two injury-prone left backs with another injury-prone left back. Does not make sense at all. Chilwell was really good at Leicester. He just doesn't do it for me anymore. There are other left backs out there. I would have preferred us to see us prioritize just the full starting 11, quality class left back. Someone like Ferdi Kadiolu, maybe an Aït-Nouri, or like I've said before, Fran Garcia, like Federico DeMarco, those kind of left backs who can come in, who can be your starters, who don't have to sit here and you have to say like, oh, they're in development, they're one for the future. We've got one for the future in Harry Hamas. We don't need another one for the future. We need someone to replace Luke Shaw, because we can't plan on that anymore. And so Danny Santos, Brazilian kid, I'd take him. They have young talent, mid two, who will never play. A lot of these players, I mean, coming from because I know Brighton signed Barco from Boca, and he's already going out on loan because they just brought in Kadiolu. Like it's always going to be hit or miss on some of these players, whether it's from the Eredivisie, whether it's from Belgium, whether it's from South America, on whether or not they're going to do well. And I don't know if that's because of the players themselves aren't good, or the pressure and the scrutiny is so much higher in the Premier League or in some of these top leagues that you almost have to hit the ground running, or it's just you're considered a flop and you're going to go out on loan or something. You don't get much patience these days, whether it's with managers, with players, or anything, because it's like the league is like a moving train and you have to jump on, otherwise you're going to get left at the station sometimes. And it's unfortunate. I wish that people would be given more time. Like I've spoken about in the past, when it comes to managers, especially, we can do a special video in the future on rating some of our post-Fergie managers and talking about who should have been given more time and whatnot, and why we think they got sacked versus what we think would have kept them in the job. We could talk about that. That could be a really good video. I'm going to plan on that in the future. But I think that patience is needed, loyalty is needed. Sounds like Ineos are backing Ten Hag. We'll see what happens, though. He needs to figure some stuff out very quickly. On Chilwell and Sterling, Simon Stone doesn't think that we are interested in Chilwell. I know I'm not interested in Chilwell. We got those reports last week that we were not really looking at doing a left back right now. that maybe we revisit it in the future, looking at Aït-Nouri and Milos Kerkez for future. But we will see what happens there. In any case, Ben Jacobs does report that while Sterling might be open to a move to United, any possible discussions on that are in the very, very early stages, like just people throwing it out there in conversations, basically. So we'll see. I don't want Sterling. The dude runs around like Jack Sparrow. I don't want him anywhere near. He's horrible in front of goal. He's not a very loyal player. And I know I've said, loyalty is important, but the guy just goes wherever. I mean, he's on a lot of money. When we're trying to get away from that wage structure, that's probably a big reason why we haven't moved for Adrian Rabiot, is because the guy wants close to like 250 a week when he's only on like 100 and some odd a week at Juventus, or he was on, and Sterling is literally on like 300K a week. I don't think he's better than Rashford. I don't think he's better than Sancho or Antony even. I think Sterling he's not that good. He gets the ball, he can get into advanced positions, but once he's there, he's kind of like Adama Traore. Like, he'll get up to but the final ball is just awful, whether it's a shot or a pass. It's just awful. Nick says no to Sterling. And I agree. I'm not a fan of Sterling. I never have been, quite personally, I think. And it's not a personal thing like a lot of people have done. I just don't think he's that good as a player. But I know people disagree. So I've seen loads of people reacting to this Instagram post from Victor Lindelof's partner. I can't remember if they're married or not, so I just call partner just to be safe. His significant other. How about that? But apparently, so we got that the other day. It was like last week or something. She posted a photo of him on crutches, so that pretty much killed our hopes of maybe him going. And then we saw that he had surgery that was successful, minor surgery on a toe, I think is what Tenhag says. But now we've got this post that came out that, if you haven't seen it, so basically she took a photo of herself in an elevator, basically shooting the elevator because elevator doors are like mirrors. She's in an elevator with a bunch of large suitcases and bags, and she added the caption, "Here we go." So whether that's some sort of double meaning, because we know that's usually a transfer signifier. Is that even a word? I'm going to go with it. Or whether it's just them going on a trip or what. I think she kind of knows what she's doing there. Could that mean Lindelof is leaving? Is he still leaving regardless of just having surgery? Maybe it wasn't as big of a deal. Maybe just simple in and out. I don't know. Danny says, I'd rather keep McTominay over Sterling. I would tell you my opinion. I've never rated Sterling like at all, whether he's at Liverpool, at City. He's just never, when Sterling has the ball even in our box, I've never once worried. And he gets too scared when he's up against good defenders. Wan-Bissaka pocket him left and right whenever we played City. He just doesn't ever look like he backs himself in these situations. Sterling just doesn't. He's just never done it for me. I would start Antony over Sterling 9 times out of 10. That's how poorly I think he plays. But I'm right there with you guys. So let me know your thoughts on Lindelof. Could he be leaving? Is his partner just kind of playing games with everybody? I don't know, but I think that Lindelof could probably want to play. He's probably right now, because of Yoro's injury, he's probably like 4th, probably maybe even 5th right now behind Johnny Evans. When Yoro's back, he's going to drop down. So I think that Lindelof needs to think about his career. He needs to think about his minutes, and he probably needs to push for that move. We probably just need to take what we can for him just to get him off the books right now. So let me know. Would you keep the Iceman? Would you let him go do his thing? We know Fenerbahce were interested. I thought I saw an Italian club. I want to say it was Fiorentina were interested, but I can't remember now. But we'll see what happens with Vic. But another player that might be leaving, Danny says, Lindelof staying to get every penny and get a lovely sign-on bonus next year. Oh, man. Danny, I feel like you think all these players are mercs. It's always hard, do you want the money or do you want to play? And that, to me, that tells you a lot about, a player. I said it when Ronaldo got his exit from United, and I told my buddy Justin, because Justin's a big Ronaldo guy, he's a big Real Madrid guy, big United guy. I said, before he was confirmed where he was going, I said, where he goes is going to tell us a lot about where his priorities are. And obviously he went to the Saudi League, took the money instead of maybe trying to challenge. But that's the thing with Ronaldo, his ego couldn't handle the fact that we wanted to sell him that summer. Nobody wanted to buy him. That probably hurt his ego. None of the big clubs in the big leagues, like the challenging leagues that are legitimately leagues, wanted him for free either. So I think that Ronaldo's his narcissism, his ego just couldn't take it. So he just went and got the money and tried to tell himself that, hey, I'll be the guy to make this league a big league. And still nobody watches it. Like, I've seen more people in the stands at like kids games around here. Like, it's embarrassing. Danny says they are mercs. Some of them are. Didn't Delit take a pay cut to come to United because he wanted to play and reunite with tenhag? I'm not saying one happens, one never happens. I'm saying maybe not all of them are, but we'll see. I mean, you're getting paid a lot of money. You want to get paid. I mean, it's hard to turn down the money once you're already getting paid the money. It's easier to give more money than it is to take money away, and that means, you know, taking a pay cut. But I hear you. I think because we've experienced it so much at United with the way we handle wages and transfers. I think it's become the norm for us, but it's not at other clubs because we just have an outrageous wage structure that just is way out of hand, and it's hard to say whether these players were mercs before we got here or we made them mercs. You know, did we make the monsters ourselves? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. In any case, another player that might be moving on, we talked about this a little bit over the weekend, is Hannibal Mejbri. So Dharmesh Sheth with Sky gave us an update on Mejbri. He says Burnley are still pursuing a deal for Hannibal. Discussions continue over the structure of a deal and sell-on clauses. Danny says we made the monsters. It's on the Glazers. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know how much the Glazers even know about these transfers. I mean, the guy didn't even know how old Ronaldo was when we bought him. They only show up for cup finals. Like, I think it's Woodward who has been responsible most of the time. And then you Murtaugh and Richard Arnold have been the ones who have been kind of just, I mean, I forget who it was who went to that meeting when we were talking to Akraf Hakimi, but they didn't even know who he was. Like, that's the problem that you get with this. These are the people that were making the freaking decisions at our club, man. It's embarrassing. So Hannibal might be going to Burnley. It sounds like those discussions are ongoing. Maybe a deal is getting close. Structure of the deal, and then those sell-on clauses. I know a lot of people have been very critical of the low fees that we've been getting for some of these players, but I think a lot of people are completely ignoring the sell-on clauses that we've been adding to these deals. I think that that's going to pay for itself. Like, even Palestri, like, people were complaining about the Palestri deals. There's 6 million. Well, what are we doing? We paid 9 million. Yeah. We're also getting almost half of that sell-on clause for Palestri. If he does well and is sold for 20 million, we're going to get 10 million from that future sale. So we'll have made money on that deal. And so it's not the end of the world. Money's not coming now, but it will come in the future. It's the same with Kambwala, same with Donny van de Beek, with the bonuses, same with a lot of these players. And so I think that, you know, yes, right now it doesn't look great, but in a year or so down the line, it is what it is. Because if they don't do well, then if Palestri is at Panathinaikos and he doesn't do well, then we were right to sell him because he was never going to do well. If he can't do well in the Greek league, he's not going to do well in the Premier League. If he does do well, we're going to make more money. Panathinaikos are going to want more for him because they're going to accommodate that sell-on clause. So we're going to get paid. It's just not going to get paid right now. Oh, Dylan, good morning, my friend. How are you, bud? Dylan, the sell-on clauses are big, especially since we haven't been including those since forever. Yeah, we have not been great just in transfers in general, and that's both selling and buying. And so adding some of these sell-on clauses has been a nice breath of fresh air. And if we do another one with Hannibal, I think it's more of the same. Danny says, just get rid of them, putting good clauses in the deal so we can make something in the future. Exactly. You know, if they're not good, we need to just stop trying to up contracts, stop trying to loan to see, like, oh, maybe they'll come good, maybe they'll come good, and then we can sell them for more. Just sell them now, put in the sell-on clause, and go from there. Let someone else develop them. It's basically like a loan, but you're getting money. You just let someone else develop them, let them play, and then we're going to benefit either way. It's fine. Dylan, I like the buyback clauses we've included too. Yeah, the buyback clauses help as well. So it sounds like, and it's so funny because we could sit here and say, like, oh man, such good. We got sell-on clauses, we got buyback clauses. This is like the norm, and we just have not done it for like a decade. So we were way down in the negative. Baseline is here. Now we're starting to get back to this, and we're trying to get back. We can start making some money. If we could start bringing in players who end up doing well, and then big clubs want them in a couple of years, and we did with Ronaldo and whatnot, or like Beckham, that could be something that could get us to the next echelon. If we identify a future big star and then we sell them. Although, of course, I would like us to keep our big stars, but in any case, we can get back to that. That'll be a big help, because the biggest thing that's causing us problems right now, and people say, oh, we spend money, we spend money. The big issue is the way that we've failed to sell players and how much we've paid. It's got us in this PSR situation. So it is what it is. Dylan, good morning, by the way, bud. Danny says 100. Look at how it worked out for Liverpool with Solanke. Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's the norm for a well-run club. It's just not been the norm for us, because we've not been a well-run club. Fucking Brighton are 100 times more well-run than we are, and that's not to disparage Brighton. They're a very well-run club. They do a very good job scouting and recruiting players. They get very good fees for them, and I think that if we could start just establish, we sound like we are, it's going to take some time, and I think a lot of people are just impatient. They want us to get back to trophies, and we've got 2 trophies in the last 2 years. It's not like we're not winning things. 2 matches into the season, let's not freak out about it. I think, and people need to remember, and I'm not saying that this is the rule, it's just there's evidence to support the fact that we don't always start seasons very well, but it doesn't mean we don't end them well. There have been many seasons where we ended up winning the league, but we've been like 8th or 9th place after like 6-7 matches into the season. I think like early 2000s, I think like 2000, 2001 season is probably up there. Like it's fine. I think there was one season, I think it was like 06, 07. Arsenal were 8 points ahead in March, and we ended up winning the league that season. Like, let's not freak out a little bit. So let me know your thoughts on Hannibal. We haven't really seen enough of Hannibal in the United shirt. I think that what I have seen, it just hasn't looked like, again, and I know it's going to sound hypercritical, like I'm being a little pedantic. I'm not. I just need to see more from players than at this level than just chasing people around. Like I've said before, like I'm not trying to be insulting or anything or compare people to dogs, but like my dog can do the pressing stuff. My dog can close me down with the ball, but it's what you do when you get the ball, to me, that separates like the League 2 level players over like the players who are going to push us to that next level and help us challenge for titles and trophies again. We need total football. We need players who can do both on and off the ball work. And when you institute those kind of tactics and that kind of mentality and those kind of standards, the players who can't handle it are going to stick out like sore thumbs. It's kind of like what we're seeing with Rashford right now, is he's not willing to be able to do all that. And so that's why Rashford's gone from being, PFA Players Player of the Year, all this kind of stuff, to, okay, maybe he's not quite what we need. And it's not saying he's a bad player. It's just a system thing. Dylan says, there's a player in there in Hannibal. He just looks unpolished. And yeah, he almost gives Fred vibes with his efforts, but lack of quality at times. Yeah, Fred is the same. I mean, he's doing bits in Turkish league now, but I needed more from Fred. We probably overpaid for him, but it is what it is. He's kind of a cult hero at United these days, so I don't think anyone's gonna disparage Fred. I think it's hard to. I think he surprised us a few times in the last few years with some of the goals that he popped up with, but he just wasn't the best. But it is what it is. On to some little bits and pieces here. Don't forget to like that video, you guys, if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe if you are new, please. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, if you can believe that. I looked at the number this morning when I sat down with my first cup of coffee and was blown away. So again, much love to everybody who's getting involved in helping the channel grow. You guys mean the world to me. So there was a report from the Sun. I know it's the Sun. It's a swear word, but we're just talking about the news because it's hard to lie about, actual things. It's one thing to speculate on opinion, but it's hard to lie about what we're going to talk about here. So there's reports yesterday saying that Ruud van Nistelrooy and Marcus Rashford had been staying late after training to conduct specialized one-on-one shooting and finishing drills. The report adds the Dutchman has been staying behind after regular training to work on Rashford in all aspects of an attacker's role. So movement off the ball, knowing when to track back, timing your runs, all this kind of stuff, finishing, all these kind of things. You want to learn a little bit more about world-class striker mentality when it comes to finishing, go read Jamie Jackson's biography on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, The Red Apprentice. Ollie made a very concerted effort and a very focused point from early on to work on his finishing a certain way, aiming for the far post all the time. And if you notice when he played for United, he did that a lot. Ollie is such an underrated player. He might go up there as probably my number 2 most underrated United player of all time. But you guys go read that book. It's a good book. And big up Jamie Jackson. He's a nice guy. I ran into him outside the players' tunnel ahead of the Crystal Palace match last Sunday. He's a good, nice guy. So there's been a particular focus between Ruud and Rashford on back post awareness and runs across the box. In any case, it's good to hear Rashford needs to do something. I don't know what his deal is in the last couple of years. He hit that peak, he got that contract, and then everything just kind of nosedived. I mean, it's good if this is true and he's putting in the extra time. We saw him when he didn't go to international duty, when he was left out of the Euros, he was putting in the effort. But you don't just suddenly forget how to shoot, right? You don't just forget the basics. I mean, he's put so many of these sitters wide and just poor offsides time and time again. Like, in my opinion, this is mental with Rashford. It's all mental, and he needs to tune out the noise. He needs to surround himself with people who have his best interest in mind, people who are going to tell him the truth, whether it's what he wants to hear or not. Tell him things he needs to hear, not just things he wants to hear. And I think it's been hard to get the criticism after getting the praise, and sometimes it's hard to handle that as a human being. I get that. I work with people all the time who struggle with these kind of things. Rashford needs to hit that mental. He needs to hit that next level internally, find some resilience, institute some intrinsic motivation, which just means being able to motivate yourself without having to have any sort of external incentive. You know, what gets you out of bed in the morning to go to a job that you don't want to really go to, that kind of motivation. You know, that's what Rashford needs to work. He needs to tune out and he needs to remind himself of what he knows to be true. When things get hard on the pitch, he needs to slow down, make things simple, get back to stringing together a few simple passes, a few good runs, and then build upon that. That's what you do in matches, is what you do over the course of a season. It's what you do over the course of a career when things get complicated, when they get hard. Stop for a second, take your breath, simplify things, build on that foundation. Foundations are not complicated. Foundations are simple, but they need to be simple because then you can build on them with other things. Danny says, how many players do you think we will sign before the window closes? I think it will be Ugarte. That's maybe a horrible Chilwell loan. We need Rashford returner. We do need Rashford returner. I think it'll probably just be Ugarte. I feel like there's a chance, depending on what happens with Eriksen and maybe Hannibal and maybe Lindelof. I think if we can make a couple more sales, I feel like there's an outside chance that another midfielder could come in. But I think it's going to be, if that happens, it's going to be either like an Amrabat or like a Rabiot kind of deal where it's free. I'd probably at this point just prefer to start giving Collier more minutes personally. And I think that maybe towards middle of the season, we might even see Jack Fletcher start traveling with the squad when we go to Europa League games and cup games and stuff like that. But maybe that's just idealism for me. I don't know. But we'll see. But you're right. Rashford needs to turn it around somehow. We hired that sports psychologist a few years back. I don't know if the players are like utilizing that resource. I mean, if not, I'm happy to go over there and be a sports psychologist. You guys want to hire me? I'll come over and work for you. I don't care. But let me know. I'm here. I'll send you my CV. But he needs to do something, and he needs to be able to be open about what it is that's going on for him. I'm sure he has talked to people. It's just about who you're talking to and what kind of things you're hearing in as far as feedback and criticism and support go. Speaking of mentality, though, so there's that stat that's been rolling around about how many stoppage time winning goals that United have conceded under Tenhag. I think it's like 6 compared to like the last like 20 years or so, which we had like 2. It's one of those stats, and again, stats can make a lot of things look worse or better than they are depending on who's saying it and how you want to use it in your argument. Again, it's that McNamara fallacy that we talked about yesterday, that logical fallacy where you're only looking at numbers, especially the numbers that make your argument look good. It's a fallacy. Don't let people fool you. That's why I always say stats and eye tests need to work together, not against each other. But in any case, these late winners that we're conceding, that's not a Tenhag issue, okay? That's a player mentality issue under Tenhag, and it's hard to remedy that as a coach, because there's only so much you can do with other human beings when it comes to their focus, their mentality. Like, tell me right now, does anyone have a good tactic to tell players to stay focused? Like, you can say that, but that's not a tactic. That's just telling you. That's like a manager's tactic, get at them, like have a go at them, like get up the pitch. Like that's not a tactic. That's just a motivational, like that's a bumper sticker. That's just a cheerleader, basically. What manager in world football should be expected to have to tell his players not to swarm 4-on-1, one attacker at the edge of the box and leave 3 other attackers at the back post? What manager should have to do that? What manager needs to instruct his players how to defend simple cutback goal opportunities from the opposition that really cost us the Champions League? People are pointing out Onana in the Champions League last season. Yeah, he had a part to play, but it is literally just crap defending, schoolboy defending that cost us. How many cutback goals did we concede like that last season? What manager needs to tell players to close down an opposition attacker at the edge of the box when they have the ball, especially on a set piece, like Cole Palmer last year or Pedro on Saturday? What manager needs to tell players to do that? This is a mentality issue. This is a focus issue. And before you say, again, if it's a manager's job to improve that, it's not possible. It's not that easy. I can tell you from experience, my whole job is to try to challenge people's thought processes and give them tools and help them reach goals by making changes in their day-to-day behaviors and their thoughts and the way they respond to external stuff. I can give clients all sorts of tools, all sorts of instructions, all sorts of interventions. You go to the doctor for a pain and they give you medicine. That's cool. They can give you all sorts of medicine and instructions. When I hurt my foot, the doctor told me to do this and that and the other thing to make sure it healed properly. At the end of the day, it's up to me. It's up to my clients. It's up to you to listen to that advice. There's only so much we can do. It's like that lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink mentality. It's not that simple. These players have to be able to be switched on, to stay switched on, to push each other to stay switched on, to push each other to keep those standards high and maintain and sustain those levels in the match. There's only so much you can do as a manager, and it's just, these players are just not, and we've seen it just as early in the first half. These players are already slowing down. They're already kind of getting sloppy. We saw it on Saturday. We didn't look really good to start the match. That's a player thing. That's not a tenhag thing, and I just needed to point that out. Dylan says, take me with you. I work in the youth academy. I mean, there's like United post jobs all the time. And if there was any way for me to work in the UK, the hard part would be convincing my wife to move because she hates flying, but we'll see what happens. So speaking of Chelsea, going back to Sterling and Sancho and all this stuff. So I'm waiting for Sky, I'm waiting for TalkSport, I'm waiting for all the rival fans and all the pundits to call out Enzo Maresca for being a bully after his comments on Mykhailo Mudryk over the weekend. I won't hold my breath, though. But you can bet your ass if that was Ten Hag, he'd be vilified. The memes would be up. TalkSport would be doing hour-long shows on it. Sky would be doing hour-long. ESPN FC would be doing hour-long shows on it if he had said what Maresca said. That's just, you won't hear about it, though, because it's not Ten Hag. It's not United. Nobody cares. We literally get more coverage, 100 times more coverage for any negative stuff than City get for winning a treble. And that's just the way it is. No one wants to talk about Arsenal's being bottle jobs every single season. No one wants to talk about Chelsea being an absolute shit show. Like, no one wants to talk about that. But no one wants to talk about Klopp's farewell tour, where he accomplished the same in his final year at Liverpool. Supposedly one of the best managers in the world, accomplishing the same in his final year at Liverpool as Ten Hag did in his first year. And no one wants to talk about that. But we want to talk about Ten Hag and Sancho or anything like that. So pointing out the bias, because it is a very real thing. Danny, yeah, dude, let's get Dylan to work on the youth. Let's get Danny to work on the scouting. I'll come in and do the sports psychology and whatnot. And we'll start our own club, guys. We got this. Putting together a nice little team here. I like it. And then to close off, Fred scored a hat trick yesterday. So that happened. If you guys caught that, Fred grabbed himself a hat trick for Fenerbahce yesterday. It seems like, you guys ever see that movie Good Luck Chuck? You ever heard of that movie? It came out like 15 years ago or whatever. It was like, the whole point was this guy, this character, he would date these women, and then when he broke up, they would go on and meet like their soulmate, basically. So he kind of became the guy for these women to kind of spend some time with before going to meet their soulmates. It kind of feels like that for us and these other players with hat tricks, because Fred leaves us and goes and scores a hat trick. Remember when Daley Blind left us, went back to Ajax and scored a hat trick within like the first few months of returning to Ajax? So I just thought I'd throw it out there that Pastor Fred is out here scoring hat tricks for Fenerbahce under Jose Mourinho, who we know loves Fred. So Lindelof, if you go to Fenerbahce, you could get a hat trick, but I'm just saying. Sounds like you guys are off on an adventure wherever you're going, but that is going to do it. Let me just, as always, check the news. You guys get your final thoughts in on anything we've been talking about in the chat, and I will make sure to touch upon it before I check. I just want to make sure we have anything. So we've got a couple reports here from Sky Sports, from Darmesh, saying that according to reliable reports, Hannibal is set to have his medical with Burnley and complete his move. So that could be sooner than later. That's coming from Sky and Sasha Tavolieri, who is a Parisian, a French journalist as well. So it sounds like Hannibal could be the one out of here next couple of days or so. Trying to see nothing else really going on. We'll see if we get any more news today, but what were you guys saying in here? Nick, is a ball boy needed? Yeah, ball boys are needed. Just make sure Eden Hazard is not on the pitch, and if you're the ball boy, if you know, right? So what do you guys think? Ugarte announcement today. Here we go today. Any outgoings you think, Sancho could come down to the final hours of the transfer window. We'll see what happens there. If Sancho leaves, do we need a winger? Because all we're going to have left is Anthony, Ahmad, Garnacho, and Rashford. It's a little light in terms of quality. Obviously, it's not light in terms of personnel, but we will see. Sounds like we've got a whole team going on here. We got the psychologist, we got the youth academy guy, we got the scout. Danny, I would hire you as a scout in a heartbeat, Danny. I'd be setting you up with a villa in South America, and I would just pay for you to go and get your chimichurri on, and just hang out and scout players for me all day. But I don't have that kind of money. So in any case, that's going to do it. Be sure to come back today. We'll probably be back, of course, if anything pops up. It sounds like it's been a slow morning, but still wanted to come back and get your thoughts. Of course, I will be here if anything pops up with it. Here we go. Don't forget to come by this weekend. We're going to be doing the transfer window rating show and talking about our expectations for this season moving forward. And then trying to get the plans in the works again for maybe that fun video on just rating post-Fergie United managers and whatnot. So if that's something you guys want to see, let me know. We are on the road to 1K subscribers, so don't forget to like and subscribe on the way out. And I will see you guys on the next one. Cheers, everybody, for getting involved. Justin, Danny, Dylan, Nick. Good to see everybody again. Am I forgetting anybody? No, I'm not. All right, guys. Take it easy. I will see you guys on the next one. Later.